The orbital scanner hummed softly as Vexera adjusted its settings, her four-fingered hand moving with practiced precision across the holographic interface. Earth's atmosphere created a slight distortion in the readings, but she had trained for this. After 3 cycles of preparation, she would not let atmospheric interference ruin her final trial. Her silver-scaled skin reflected the soft blue light of the cloaked ship's interior as she studied the population centers below. The Huntmaster's words echoed in her mind, "Choose wisely, young hunter. Humans are not mere prey, they are clever, adaptable, and more dangerous than their fragile forms suggest." Vexera's antennae twitched in anticipation as she narrowed her search parameters. She didn't want an easy target, that would bring no honor. She needed someone who would challenge her, prove her worthy of joining the elite hunters of her people. The scanner beeped, highlighting a promising subject. Nathan Foster, age 32, former Special Forces operative with extensive survival training. Current occupation, wilderness guide and survival instructor. Perfect. A smile curved her lips, revealing sharp, metallic white teeth. Subject acquired, she murmured to her ship's AI. Begin detailed surveillance. The next 3 Earth days were spent studying her prey. Nathan lived alone on the outskirts of a small mountain town in what humans called Montana. His daily routine included training clients in survival skills, maintaining his equipment, and taking long runs through the wilderness. But it was the way he moved that caught Vexera's attention, always aware, always scanning his surroundings. He knew how to watch for watchers. On the 4th day, she noticed something that made her antennae quiver with excitement. He had spotted one of her surveillance drones. Most humans would have ignored the tiny distortion in the air, but Nathan had not only noticed it, he had taken measures to avoid its observation range without revealing he had seen it. Fascinating, Vexera purred, adjusting her ceremonial armor. The traditional chrome and obsidian plates fit perfectly, enhanced with the latest cloaking technology. Computer, begin recording hunt log. She waited until nightfall to make her descent. Her ship remained in high orbit, cloaked and silent, while she used her personal gravitational manipulator to lower herself into the forest near Nathan's cabin. The night air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and recent rain. Her sensory implants quickly adjusted to Earth's gravity and atmosphere. Nathan's cabin sat dark and quiet, but Vexera's thermal sensors showed he was inside, awake, and moving with purpose. Had he detected her arrival? Impossible, her cloaking technology was far beyond human capability to detect. She moved silently through the underbrush, her armor adapting to the surrounding temperatures to mask her thermal signature. The hunt had officially begun, and by tradition, she had to announce her presence to her chosen prey. It was one of the ancient honors of the hunt, giving worthy prey a chance to prove their worth. Vexera reached the edge of the clearing around Nathan's cabin and raised her ceremonial hunter's horn to her lips. The sound it produced was like nothing on Earth, a haunting, crystalline tone that carried for miles through the mountain air. Inside the cabin, Nathan went completely still. Then, to Vexera's surprise, he switched off his lights and moved to a defensive position. Not panic, not confusion, but tactical response. Her antennae tingled with pleasure. She had chosen well. She activated her vocal translator and spoke, her voice carrying clearly through the night air. Nathan Foster of Earth, you have been chosen for the honor hunt. You have 1 full Earth rotation to prepare. When the sun sets tomorrow, I will begin my pursuit. If you survive 3 days of the hunt, you will be marked as worthy. If I capture you before then. She let the implications hang in the night air. The cabin remained silent for a long moment. Then Nathan's voice came back, steady and clear, whatever you are, I should warn you. I'm not easy prey. Vexera's smile widened. That, she purred, is exactly why I chose you. She raised her horn again, sounding the final note of challenge before melting back into the forest. As she set up her base camp 2 kilometers away, Vexera reviewed the cabin's thermal imaging. Nathan was already packing, preparing, planning. No panic, no wasted motion. Her antennae quivered again. This hunt would bring her great honor indeed. What she didn't expect was the strange flutter in her chest whenever she thought of his calm, confident response to her challenge. She dismissed it as excitement for the hunt. After all, that's all this was, a hunt. Nothing more. The night wrapped around her as she began her preparations, the mountain winds carrying the scent of her prey and the promise of a challenge worthy of song. Nathan moved through the forest like a shadow, each step carefully placed, each movement deliberate. 15 hours had passed since the alien hunter's announcement, and he hadn't wasted a single minute. His military training had prepared him for many situations, but an alien hunt? That was definitely not in the manual. Still, survival was survival, and he'd packed accordingly: lightweight gear, water purification system, first aid kit, and most importantly, his observation equipment. If this hunter could cloak herself, he needed every advantage he could get. A twig snapped somewhere to his left, too deliberate, too obvious. Nathan smiled grimly. She was testing him, watching his reactions. He continued his pace without changing stride or showing any sign he'd noticed. Clever prey, Vexera murmured from her position in the trees, her antennae detecting the slight elevation in Nathan's heart rate that betrayed his awareness. She hadn't expected him to maintain such composure. Most humans would have fled at the first sound, but he was analyzing, adapting, learning her methods. The hunt was proving more intriguing than she'd anticipated. There was something about the way he moved, the efficiency of his actions, that stirred something beyond mere professional appreciation. She pushed the thought aside. Focus was essential. A sudden burst of energy readings on her scanner drew her attention. 3 ships, definitely not Earth technology, breaking through the atmosphere. Their descent trajectory would bring them right to this area. Poachers. Her antennae flattened against her skull in disgust. Below, Nathan had noticed something too. He'd stopped moving, pressing himself against a tree trunk, eyes scanning the sky. The ship's cloaking technology might fool human radar, but the displacement of air and birds was obvious to a trained observer. Vexera faced a choice: maintain her hunt, or warn her prey about the greater threat. The poachers were notorious for their brutality, known to capture both humans and other species for illegal trading across the galaxies. The decision was made for her when the first plasma blast scorched the Earth mere meters from Nathan's position. He rolled expertly, taking cover behind a fallen log. His reaction time impressed her. He'd already shifted from his previous survival strategy to combat readiness. "Behind you." Nathan's voice rang out, surprising Vexera. Even under fire, he'd spotted one of the poachers trying to flank her position. She spun, her ceremonial armor deflecting a neural net that would have incapacitated her. The next few minutes were chaos. 3 poacher ships had deployed a dozen hunters, all armed with illegal weapons. Vexera's honor-bound hunting equipment was meant for single combat, not an all-out firefight. Yet she found herself moving in sync with Nathan, the hunter and prey becoming impromptu allies. Nathan had produced a hunting rifle, primitive by her standards, but effective enough when he shot the cloaking device off one of the poachers, rendering them visible. Vexera took advantage of the opening, her neural disruptor taking down 2 enemies in quick succession. "We need to move," Nathan called out, already calculating their next position. "They're trying to herd us toward the cliff face." Vexera's antennae twitched in agreement. Her respect for his tactical analysis grew. He'd recognized the poacher's strategy as quickly as she had. "There's a cave system," she responded, her translator making the words clear despite the chaos. 200 meters northwest. They moved as one, covering each other's retreat. Nathan's expertise in the terrain proved invaluable, finding paths that gave them maximum cover. Vexera's technology kept them aware of their pursuers' positions. It was a dance of survival, each step requiring perfect trust in the other's capabilities. As they reached the cave entrance, a plasma blast caught Vexera's armor, shorting out her cloaking device. She stumbled, and without hesitation, Nathan pulled her into the cover of the rocks. His hand on her arm sent an unexpected shiver through her body, the first time they'd made physical contact. "Your armor's damaged," he observed, checking the cave's defensibility even as he assessed her condition. "But you're not hurt." "The armor protected me," she confirmed, finding herself strangely affected by his concern. This was not how she'd imagined her hunt progressing. By tradition, she should feel diminished by accepting help from her prey. Instead, fighting alongside him felt right. "So," Nathan said, checking his remaining ammunition, "I'm guessing these aren't friends of yours." "Poachers," she growled, the translator carrying her disgust. "They dishonor the hunt, capture beings for profit. No code, no honor." Nathan nodded, accepting this new reality with remarkable adaptability. "Then I suggest a temporary truce. After we deal with them, we can get back to our original arrangement." Vexera's antennae quivered with what she refused to acknowledge was amusement. "Agreed. Though I must warn you, helping me will not make me go easier on you during the hunt." "Wouldn't want you to," he replied with a hint of a smile that caused that strange flutter in her chest again. "Now, let's show these poachers why they should have picked easier targets." The cave system proved to be both sanctuary and trap. Vexera's thermal imaging showed the poachers setting up a perimeter, but the dense rock walls made their readings inconsistent. Nathan's experience with cave systems had already helped them navigate deeper, finding a defensible position near an underground stream. "Your people," Nathan said as he worked on creating makeshift traps from his remaining gear, "they hunt humans often." Vexera watched him work, fascinated by his ingenuity with such primitive materials. "No. This is a final trial, reserved for those seeking to join the elite hunters. Humans are considered worthy prey. Clever, adaptable, unpredictable." "Unpredictable, huh?" He glanced up at her, and even in the dim light of her armor's emergency beacon, she could see the intelligence in his eyes. "Like how you didn't predict helping your prey fight off space poachers." Her antennae twitched in what she was starting to recognize as amusement. "Indeed. Though I did not predict my prey would help me either." "Yeah, well," Nathan tested the tension on a snare, enemy of my enemy and all that. "Plus, you did give me fair warning about the hunt." "They didn't." He paused, considering. "Why is that?" "The warning." "Honor," Vexera replied, running a diagnostic on her damaged armor. "A hunt without honor is mere slaughter. We give worthy prey the chance to prove their worth. It is tradition." Nathan nodded, understanding in his expression. "Like how some Earth cultures would give warriors a chance to prepare for combat. Code of honor." He moved closer, examining her armor with professional interest. "Can you fix it?" "Parts of it. The cloaking device is beyond field repair, but the defensive systems are functional." She found herself unexpectedly aware of his proximity, the warmth of his body registering on her thermal sensors. "Your traps, they are clever. Simple, but effective. Sometimes simple is better." "Speaking of simple." He pulled out a worn paper map. "These caves connect to an old mining system. If your scanner can confirm this layout, we might have an advantage the poachers don't expect." As they studied the map together, a distant echo of movement reached Vexera's sensors. "They're coming. 3 groups, trying to converge on our position." "Good." Nathan's smile held a predatory edge that sent an unexpected thrill through her. "Let them come. I've got a few surprises ready." The next hour proved to be a masterclass in guerrilla warfare. Nathan's traps, combined with Vexera's technology, allowed them to pick off the poachers one by one. They moved through the caves like shadows, striking and disappearing before their enemies could respond effectively. During one particularly close encounter, they ended up pressed together in a narrow passage, waiting for 2 poachers to pass. Vexera found herself acutely aware of Nathan's heartbeat, the steady rhythm somehow calming despite their situation. Your heart rate remains controlled even in danger, she whispered, her translator set to its lowest volume. Most humans show more fear response. Had practice, he whispered back. Fear's normal, but you can't let it control you. He turned slightly, meeting her eyes in the darkness. What about your people? Do you feel fear? We feel much, she replied, surprising herself with her honesty. We simply process it differently. Channel it into focus, into the hunt. The hunt. Nathan's voice held a note she couldn't quite interpret. Is that all this is to you now? Before she could respond, her sensors picked up an energy signature that made her antennae flatten against her skull. We have a problem. They've brought in hunting drones. Military grade, illegal in 7-star systems. How many? 6. They're mapping the cave system. She accessed her armor's remaining functions. My jamming field won't last long against their scanners. Nathan was quiet for a moment, thinking. These drones, they use some kind of advanced sensors, right? To map everything? Yes. Multispectrum scanning, density mapping, thermal imaging. So they're sensitive. Maybe, too sensitive. His smile was back, the one that made her chest flutter. That stream we passed earlier. The minerals in the water, combined with the cave acoustics. Vexera's antennae lifted as she followed his thinking. A sensory overload cascade. But we'd need to time it perfectly, they said in unison, and that flutter in her chest became something warmer, deeper. As they began planning their counterattack, Vexera found herself facing an uncomfortable truth. The thrill she felt was no longer just from the hunt or the combat. It was from working with him, seeing how their different skills and perspectives combined into something greater than either alone. Nathan, she said softly as they prepared to move out, when this is over. Let's survive first, he interrupted gently. Then we can figure out what this is becoming. She nodded, grateful for his understanding. Yet as they moved through the darkness together, she couldn't help but wonder, when the time came to complete her hunt, would she be able to see him as merely prey again? Or had he already become something far more dangerous, someone who could hunt her heart? The sensory overload plan worked better than either of them had anticipated. The combination of mineral-rich water, carefully placed sonic pulses from Vexera's damaged armor, and Nathan's knowledge of cave acoustics created a cascade that not only disabled the hunting drones but also scrambled the poachers' equipment. In the chaos that followed, Nathan and Vexera emerged from the caves to find an unexpected sight, a diplomatic vessel hovering above the tree line, its markings indicating it was from Vexera's homeworld. That's not good, is it? Nathan asked, noting how her antennae had flattened against her skull. No, she replied, her translator carrying a note of tension. That's Council Member Thexol's personal transport. His presence here is concerning. As if in response to her words, a broad beam communication lit up the clearing. Hunter Vexera, a deep voice boomed, you and your companion will present yourselves for immediate audience. Nathan glanced at her. Friend of yours? Council Member Thexol oversees all elite hunter trials, she explained, her posture rigid. His presence during an active hunt is unprecedented. They were escorted aboard the diplomatic vessel by guards whose armor made Vexera's look primitive. The ship's interior was a stark contrast to the brutal efficiency of the hunting vessels, all flowing lines and elegant design. Council Member Thexol cut an imposing figure, his silver-scaled skin bearing the ceremonial markings of high office. His antennae twitched in what Nathan was learning to recognize as disapproval. Hunter Vexera, he began, his translator set to a formal tone, your trial has been compromised. Not only did you fail to capture your prey within the designated time frame, but you actively collaborated with him. With respect, Council Member, Vexera responded, the intervention of illegal poachers created extraordinary circumstances. Indeed. Thexol's gaze shifted to Nathan. And you, human. You were aware this was a sanctioned hunt? That by our laws, you were designated prey? I was aware, Nathan replied calmly. I was also aware that your hunter chose to warn me of the poachers instead of using them to her advantage. Where I come from, that kind of honor deserves respect. Thexol's antennae twitched again, but this time in what might have been surprise. You speak of honor as if you understand our ways. Maybe I don't understand all of them, Nathan acknowledged, but I understand enough to know that those poachers violated something sacred to your people. The hunt isn't just about capturing prey, is it? It's about proving worth, both the hunters and the hunteds. Vexera felt that now familiar flutter in her chest at his words. He did understand, more than any other human she'd encountered in her research. The poachers, Thexol said, bringing up a holographic display, were part of a larger network. Their presence here was not coincidental. The display showed communication logs, trade routes, and most damning, correspondence with members of both human and alien governments. A test within a test, Vexera realized, her antennae rising in understanding. The poachers were known to you. We suspected corruption within our ranks, Thexol confirmed. Hunters who had been compromised, working with poachers to corrupt the sacred traditions of the hunt. We needed proof, and more importantly, we needed to understand how deep the corruption ran. So you used us as bait, Nathan said, not accusingly but with professional appreciation. You knew they couldn't resist targeting both a human special forces veteran and an elite hunter candidate. Your reputations made you ideal candidates, yes. Thexol's antennae moved in what might have been amusement. Though your response to the situation was unexpected. Vexera stepped forward. Council member, if this was part of the trial, then by our laws, Nathan has proven himself more than worthy. His skills, his honor, his understanding of our ways. Has it occurred to you, Hunter Vexera, Thexol interrupted, that perhaps the trial has proven something beyond worthiness? His gaze moved between them. Our laws speak not only of the honor of the hunt but of the wisdom to recognize when the hunt becomes something more. Nathan and Vexera exchanged glances, that unspoken connection between them growing stronger. What are you saying, council member? Vexera asked. I am saying, young hunter, that sometimes the greatest honor lies not in completing the hunt, but in recognizing when the prey becomes. He paused, his antennae moving in what was definitely amusement now, let us say, a partner worthy of standing beside you rather than kneeling before you. The implications of his words hung in the air between them all. Nathan stepped closer to Vexera, their shoulders almost touching. So what happens now? He asked. Thexol's expression became serious again. Now, we have a greater hunt before us. The corruption in our ranks must be exposed and eliminated. We need those who understand both worlds, who can move between them with honor and purpose. His gaze fixed on them both. The question is, are you prepared for such a hunt? 3 months after their encounter with council member Thexol, Vexera stood at the edge of a cliff in the Rocky Mountains, her silver scales catching the light of the setting sun. Her new armor, marking her status as an elite hunter, gleamed with subtle power. But it wasn't a hunt that brought her here today. Your timing's still perfect, Nathan's voice came from behind her. Even without her sensors, she would have known he was there. Their months of working together had created a connection that transcended technology. A hunter must always be punctual, she replied, turning to face him. The sight of him still caused that flutter in her chest, now familiar and welcome. He wore tactical gear similar to when they first met, but now enhanced with elements of her people's technology, a bridge between their worlds, just as they had become. How did the council meeting go? He asked, moving to stand beside her. Their shoulders touched, a casual intimacy that would have been unthinkable during their first encounter. The corruption ran deeper than expected, she said, her antennae shifting in concern. 17 more hunters identified as working with the poacher networks. 3 council members implicated. Nathan nodded grimly. Same on our end. The FBI task force found connections to 6 different government agencies. The money trail leads to at least 4 more countries. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the sun paint the mountains in shades of gold and purple. The past months had been intense, tracking corrupt officials, disrupting poacher networks, building trust between their peoples. Every step had brought them closer, their different perspectives and skills creating something unique. I received a new assignment today, Vexera said finally. The Council is creating a permanent joint task force. Humans and hunters working together to protect both our peoples. She turned to face him fully. They've asked me to lead it. Let me guess, Nathan smiled, that same smile that had first made her question everything she knew about humans. They want someone who understands both sides. Someone who's proven they can work with humans as equals rather than prey. They want us both, she confirmed. You'd be my official partner. Equal rank, equal authority. Her antennae twitched with amusement. Though I would technically have seniority, given that I did hunt you first. Did you? His eyes held that challenging gleam she'd grown to love. As I remember it, you never actually caught me. Perhaps, she stepped closer, I found something better than prey. The kiss that followed was neither human nor hunter, but something new, like everything they'd created together. When they finally parted, Nathan touched the ceremonial mark on her armor, the one that matched the tattoo on his shoulder. Your people's traditions, they're adapting to this. To us. The Council believes we're proving an ancient theory, she explained. That the ultimate evolution of the hunt isn't the capture of prey, but the finding of equals. Those who can challenge us, make us better, stand beside us. Her antennae brushed against his cheek in a gesture of affection. The old stories speak of hunters who found their perfect match in their prey. So that's what all this was. He gestured between them, his smile widening. Just you following tradition? No, she pulled him closer. This is me breaking with tradition to forge something new. Something ours. Their moment was interrupted by the subtle chime of their communicators, new information about poacher movements in South America. They separated smoothly, professionals ready for action, but the connection between them remained. Ready for another hunt? Nathan asked, checking his gear. Vexera activated her armor systems, the familiar hum of technology mixing with the wild song of the mountain winds. Always. Though you should know. Her antennae twitched with mischief, I still intend to catch you someday. I'm counting on it, he replied, his hand finding hers as they moved toward their waiting transport. But for now, let's go hunt some real prey. As they took off into the gathering dusk, Vexera reflected on how far they'd come from that first night of the hunt. She had sought to prove herself worthy of being an elite hunter, but instead had found something far more precious, a partner who challenged her, completed her, and showed her that sometimes the greatest honor lies not in the capture, but in the connection. The hunt that had brought them together had ended, but their greatest adventure was just beginning. Together, they would forge a new path between their worlds, proving that sometimes the heart's hunt leads to the most unexpected and precious prizes of all. The end.